The show. Anyway, I'm gonna redo all that. Let's redo that. Let's have a professional. Let's be a fucking professional. Like, I don't really need to focus on clean it up. The rainfall, you know, like the rain show. So it really started. Hey, what's up, motherfuckers? How you doing? We are going to talk about something. I have nothing to talk about sometimes, and sometimes you just got to go and you got to say, well, we got to do something. So here it is. I am waiting on responses back from people about the first edit of the book. Very humbling, the process of fucking having someone edit your book. I don't even know if they're editing it. They might just be reading it. That is like super strong. It tastes earthy, you know what I mean? So I think it's about 9 people in general. I think that's how many there is, 9 of them that are reading the book right now. I don't necessarily know if I'm asking them to edit it or just fucking read it. I just gave it to them and said, you want to read my book? They can do with it what they will. Now, while that's going on, one thing that always happens to me is every time I give it to a new person, I just like go through that same old like, God, I'm failed. I'm such a piece of shit. This sucks, and this is the worst thing ever. You know, this is horrible. I've ruined it trying to edit it. I feel like I've destroyed it. You know, all this kind of stuff you'll go through with your art. I find it to go through, like going through that much easier when it comes to like painting, drawing, or music. I think that's way easier. Like, oh my God, I fucked this up. Because like, it's easier to clean that up. For me, writing feels harder to like, oh, it's okay, we'll fix it. Like, because to me, writing is so difficult. There's so many things inside of a book to fucking fix. It's like, you can fix this section here, but if you neglect this section, then this doesn't feel like this was transitioning well enough. And you have to think of the thing in entirety. You compartmentalize each section because each thing needs to be paced in its own way. Each needs to have a different thing it invokes, or it's exploring a different element, or whatever it is, like a viewpoint from the character. But then as a whole, it's like, does it make sense as a whole? Like, this writing style feels like I honed it in better in this section, but in this section it feels like I regressed a bit, and then in that section, you start to notice all this stuff about your writing, and that's what I find to be the most difficult thing ever, is accepting writing is being done. Music, I can go a little overboard, and I have in the past, or wanted to, I should say, with musical things. But I do know, like, yeah, this is good. You can walk away from that's much easier to walk away from than words on a fucking page. I think, at least, that's just my opinion, because this book has been in the works for 6 years. Around 6 years that I officially started this book. At least I think it was. Whenever Kevin will remember, whatever the year was that I lived with Kevin and Kevin, that year is when I started. Was that 2017, 18, 16? I don't know. But that's when I started it. And it's like 6 years to finish this one book. It's only 135,000 words and 256 pages or whatever. Yeah. I'm a very, very slow worker, apparently. It was slow because of my my lack of vision, my lack of skill, and like lack of motivation is the biggest one. I struggle so hard with it. It's so hard to stay motivated. Like, I struggle a lot with like sleep. Like, I lay in bed at 9 o'clock and it's 11 o'clock and I'm trying to fall asleep still, and I'm like, dude, you gotta get up at 4 in the morning. You gotta get some sleep. And I want to, but I can't. And then I wake up and I'm dead tired throughout the day. My eyes are all twitching and shit, and I'm just so sleepy. And then I come home and I'm like wanting to take a nap, and I don't. By the time 9 o'clock hits again, I'm not tired anymore, and then I can't fall asleep again. So there's all that shit, and it fucks and foggies up my mind and everything, and I deal with that a lot. I joked with someone about, like, I deal with that, and then throughout the night I wake up 4 or 5 times from crazy dreams, and I have to fall back asleep again, and it happens every fucking night. So I can't remember the last time I got like good sleep. So there's all that shit, and then I come at this book with that barely any energy because I gotta waste 8 hours a day at a stupid fucking job, so I can't, you know, devote so much to it. And it was just hard. It was really hard to do that. I didn't come from a background where someone kind of navigated me to have a better work ethic. It was very much like, no, jobs are jobs and they're important and you gotta have a job, and jobs are, you know, stupid shit. So it was just kind of like, I'm a very unmotivated person, and it took me a while to do, because again, I didn't realize how shitty I was at this. I didn't know how much I needed to learn. It was a huge learning curve, and I'm talking to someone right now, someone else that writes, and she was saying that she was, you know, always as a kid enjoyed writing and poetry and music and this and that, use it as escapism, and was always into this kind of stuff. And I look at those people with envy and say, like, man, I really wish I had my head on straight when I was young, you know, where I wanted to write and I enjoyed writing, and I really didn't, you know. This is only something I discovered in my 20s. I feel so far behind. You know, I felt like that with music too. I've talked about that, so I don't need to go into it, but I've always had that mentality where I'm like, dude, we have to catch up. We're doing this so late, you know, like there's a timeline. But as a 32-year-old, you'd imagine like, oh, you must have like been, you know, like I don't even have a first book published. I'm trying to figure this out. It's just tough, man. It really is. Writing's got to be the hardest goddamn thing I've ever ventured into. You know, I've never experienced anything so hard in my life. Everything else is easy compared to this shit. Because writing, man, the hardest part for me is wanting to write. See, that's where I struggle. It's so many times I'll sit in front of the fucking computer screen, or I'll sit in front of the typewriter, and I just don't fucking want to do it. I hate it. I'm like, I don't want to goddamn do this. I'm sick of writing. I don't like this. I don't enjoy it. And I just sit there and I fucking hate. And it just takes so much energy to get over that to, okay, here we go. Sometimes I have to sit there for hours. Go on the couch and just fucking sit there and like, come on. We have to do this. We got to do this. We have to. Come on. And the other part of me is like, I don't want to. I fucking hate this. I'm so tired. I don't want to do anything. I want to go to sleep. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to do anything. And I just battle that shit all the time. You know, that's the hardest fucking thing that I would say that I've been battling is motivation. I'll sit there and drink energy drinks and I'll still be like falling asleep sitting at work. You know what I mean? Like, I'm fatigued. I'm so tired. And I don't really know why, because I don't do anything that crazy. You know what I mean? Just got low energy. Or something. I don't fucking know. But that's got to be where I'm struggling the most, is motivation to do this. And like, trying to talk to myself. And like, you clearly enjoy something about this because you keep coming back to it. And I do. There are moments I do enjoy it, but generally I don't. And so it's, you know, I've battled it all, man. I've always thought like, well, fuck, throw it all away. Take all your books and then throw them in the garbage. And then there you go, no more bitching. But I can't find myself able to do that. So that's where I'm like, yeah, exactly. Then fucking finish it. That's probably the hardest thing to do during all this. You know, I really like look at authors and just in such envy that don't describe it this way. Like, yeah, oh, it's hard work, and maybe, you know, they say this and that, but they don't describe it like, yeah, I feel like it fucking kills me. I envy them. Because what it feels like, I'm not saying this is it, but it does feel like this. With my work, with all the writings that I've done, which I've done a lot of short stories. And guess what? Surprise, surprise. None of them are finished. But I have this stack here. These are all short stories that all take place inside the same world the book does. I gotta finish these. I don't know what order to finish anything. And I'm working on another one And the other one's really good because it's got some cool backstory stuff, and it's gonna be really good. But they're all connected to the main story. Now, the thing that I do with all of the work that I've done is I've explored so much darkness. There'll be a story about a guy. This is a short story I'm working on. Well, I'm just thinking if I should continue doing it. And he's, what would you call those? Just a merchant seaman, if you will. Kind of goes from ship to ship, just, they're not mercenaries. Like, I forgot what that's called. Freelance sailor? I don't know. But he just kind of goes wherever the ships are and he, like, works on it. And he does, like, the shit jobs. You know, clean the bilge and, you know, do whatever the fuck sailors do. I don't know. I've never been on a ship, which is what stopped me from writing. I have to research. And he's doing all these jobs and he's trying to save up money to buy himself a sailboat. But he's always at the same harbor that is in Aval. So the harbor that's in the book. And he hangs out there and in the Marius Inn, which is also in the book. Like, it's shit that you're like, oh wow, this is from the book. And he's got this thing for the harbor master's daughter, and so does everyone else. And everyone thinks he's a lazy guy that doesn't really do a whole lot of work, and because he's a very good-looking guy, and they're like, that's all you are. You don't have to try. You don't have to do this. You know how men get with pretty men. And he's got a crush on this girl, and he's been wanting to hook up with her or whatever, like just be in a relationship with her. I haven't decided yet. For a long time. He grew up on those docks because he was one of those sea rats, I don't know what they're called. Just the kids that hang around there and grew up in it. And so was she. And so finally he's going to work up the courage to talk to this girl. And he's going to get this sailing boat. Hopefully he's saving up for it and then he can take her on it and have this nice time. And then I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And I was like, but then what if I explore a dark element? What if this is the moment where he thinks she might like him, he makes a move on her, she denies him, and then we have that scene from like Once Upon a Time in America. What the fuck's his name? What's that actor's name? De Niro. Robert De Niro's character rapes his love of his life in the back of a car after years of like being madly in love with her. And like he finally got an opportunity, but he ended up raping her instead. And it's like really fucked up. I was like, what if I do that? Like I was just like, that'd be kind of crazy to like take it to such a dark place. And like, that's always what I want to do with my stories. It's like I'm reading it and I'm typing, I'm like, oh cool. But then like a really fucked up thing happens, and then this is crazy, and then they go down this horrible avenue. And every single story of mine does that. I don't ever know how to make a story like, and it's fine, and it was good, and it's a love story, it's a mystery. Like, no, it's more like horrible shit. Because for some reason, I feel like, you know, there's the darkness in the world, and I want to, like, dive into it and surface things and show people. You know, like, this is bad, you should think this is bad, and look at this, look at that. And I just feel like that's what I do. You know, and so what that does is it kind of fucking throws me in a goddamn spin. And maybe that's why it's so hard, is I'm constantly going to the well of darkness and dipping a cup in. Like, oh, here we go, we're gonna get really violently ill again, let's do it, you know. Maybe that's why it's so difficult. But I can't help but do that. I don't know how to write something that isn't fucked up. You know what I mean? Or like about to get fucked up. Like, I don't want to read this book. It's like 10 pages of a really horrible rape scene, you know, or some fucked up thing. I've never written that, but that sounds like something I would do if you gave me a pen and paper. Just exploring really horrible elements of humanity. And like, if you read the actual book, which is called, I think, as I'm calling it right now, is The Forgotten Revelation. I mean, it's been the working title for close to 10 years now. That book, it's a hell of a lot of bad stuff. I think, at least. I'm curious to hear what others think about it, like what they got out of it. But when I reread it, and like as a reader, not necessarily as an editor, it was just so negative. Even like the things that you're supposed to be positive about felt negative. Even the happy songs are sad. You know what I mean? Like they said about Brian Wilson's music. And it feels that way as I reread it. It feels like a really dark, just horrible, bleak fucking place. And every time the story seems to get like a positive element, it just like fucking deteriorated, thrown back into oblivion, you know what I mean? And it was my intention to really explore the chaos of life. It's like a chaos that we've all felt, being thrust out into the world from, you know, your adolescence and going into, what is that called? Just being an adult. I thought, man, it's so fast, it's so chaotic, and you get so swept up, and when, because it's a kid that the story's about, and when adults notice he's going through it, not only can they reflect back on how they felt, but some of the advice that they carry might just be tainted in its own way. Because I found that growing up, that every adult would just be like, yep, you just gotta accept it, you know, or like, yeah, like, sucks, doesn't it? You know what I mean? Like, they're just like, they didn't give a fuck. They're just like, they're still caught up in their own. Now, I did not know that you can get caught up in the victim mentality. I thought being an adult was this horrible thing where it's like one bad event after the other, after another, after another, and then it compiles into, this is my lived experience, and I'm going to put it in this box, and that's my outlook on life now. I thought that's kind of how it was. I didn't really realize it's all about viewpoints. So one of the aspects I'm trying to explore in this one short story is he's a monarch, this kid. He's an adult, or maybe, I don't know how old he is yet. I'm stream of consciousness writing, we'll find out. But he's this man that he's in exile apparently, and he was like a monarch, which will make sense when you read the books. An Aevan, as I call him. And he does a lot of inner exploration of his mind and stuff because of reasons. And one of them was understanding the concept of how mind grows and how everything around you happens and how you reflect upon it. Because there's these strings that lead back to Creator. And those strings are this consciousness. But all along them can be these, as I'm terming them right now, barnacles of perception that can grow upon them. And those things are warped views or like subjective views that you're like, yeah, all women are bad. Yeah, all men are bad. You know, it's like these barnacles that grow on it and distort and can snap strings from this connection that is pure God consciousness. And so he's kind of exploring that. It's a very astral-based short story. And for me, that's something I'm realizing now because I'm 32. Like, I'm starting to see, like, oh, it's all about how you view it. Like, you can have the most negative life in the world, but it's all about the way you take, what you take from that. Like, one of the things I learned in my 20s was seeking happiness. I just want to be happy. That's the dumbest thing you could do, and it's impossible to do. That's a horrible goal to set. I never really knew that. And I had to learn that kind of stuff. And I didn't really understand that the yin-yang of life, that you have to have bad to know what good is, and you have to have good to know what bad is. And those bad experiences lead you to understand not only the depths of your own mind and how far you can be pushed, go, or like, you know, what you can think, but it does make you appreciate in a grandiose way the positive aspects of your life. It's all about this balance. And I didn't know that balance was spiritual. So it's like all this shit that I'm learning in my life. And it's kind of good that I started the book 6 years ago instead of 6 months ago, because it would be really hard for me to be honest about viewing it in a very naive way. And I really feel like, personally, I captured Eris's idiocy pretty well as a 17-year-old. I feel pretty good about that. And one of the major aspects of why it's captured so well, I think, is because I didn't know what the plot was. A lot of the way he reacts is because it was written with stream of consciousness. So I didn't know where I was going either. Like when he was like, okay, he's going here, and I would be like, well, I don't fucking know what's happening. I don't know how to connect the dots. I'm trying to connect the dots, but I don't even know. So it's honest. Eris is thinking of like, what is happening is sincere. Because it's what there would be those moments where Eris is sitting down, let's say he's at a campfire, and he's supposed to, I'm like, he's got to start thinking, what the fuck's happening? Where am I going? And I would just like, well, let's stream of consciousness, like, where am I going? Like, what would you think? And I did. And because I didn't have the answers, I couldn't be like, and he thought, wait a minute, story element part here. And, you know, I didn't get that. It was merely me going like, I don't know. All I know is we have to get there. I don't know why or how long it's going to take. I know nothing as a writer. So I just feel like the authenticity was there. So this book for me is a very, very personal journey of life and all its elements. Huge like motivation with my own life. And because I fumbled around with no direction and nowhere home, I think it lent to the authenticity. You know? Like, that has to be what it does. I'm very bad at faking things and pretending like, I have no idea. You know, like, no, I can't do that. And so I found it hard, like, well, how do you write a whole, like, how do you, like, block up a whole story and like, plan it all out and then pretend like you're gonna go on an unknown? Like, I thought that was so stupid. So the way I write is I only know what the characters know. If I need to explore what the fuck's going on, sometimes I do. And that'll be those days where I'm just sitting down, like I'm gonna be doing it later with a certain character. I got all these notes I gotta go through shit, and I gotta read journals, and I have to go back through these documents that I've done, like 7,000 page Word documents, and I have to try to connect dots on things, and I gotta research cultures and stuff. I have to do all this fucking work because I got to a point where I'm like, okay, we need to kind of know something, and it needs to make sense with the entirety of everything else. I find that to be the hardest part, is having a lore concept, like having a story that takes place in a world, and it's like, well, we can't just go away and then all of a sudden this doesn't make sense with this over here. It's all got to be connected. And sometimes a story that takes place in this land way over here has some sort of connecting element to this land way over here, about 1,000 miles away. Well, I need to do some research and make sure that the viewpoints right here make sense with the ones over here, because they trade with each other. But this story takes place in the sea between the countries, and you know what I mean? Like, you can't just make things up every time. There's real life consequences, real life, within the world. If I say that this country's at war with that one, well, that one's got to be at war with the other one. They got to know that they're at war. They can't just be like, well, I don't know, like, they're at war with us, but we just kind of sit here and wait for the author to tell us what to do. Like, that's not real. See, there's so many elements, you know, like you see it in the Prelude to the Trade War series. The reason that that's happening is because there's going to be an immense conflict going on throughout the books. Well, fuck, we got to know how that happened. How do we get there? Well, what are the countries like? You know, like, it's like all this stuff that no one will tell you, that like, oh, by the way, you should probably, you know, do this stuff in this order or else you're fucked. It's difficult. And I'm doing it with 2 other dudes. I cannot imagine doing this alone. It'd be easier probably because I'd be able to, like, you know, I wouldn't have to rely on outside things, and I can just get it done when I wanted to get it done. But writing with other people, I think, has really helped me in the collaborative process of the world. It kind of comes across as authentic because everyone has their own goals. Kevin and Jacob's nations, they want to win. If it was all by me, I'd want only one to win. You know what I mean? And I'd make everyone else like, then they'll fall. So there's an actual conflict that can happen. I have to create nations that destroy the South, and the South doesn't want to be destroyed. That's Jacob's country. Well, he's going to do whatever he can to not have it destroyed. And I have to, as an author, do everything I can to destroy it. You know what I mean? Like, so there's a lot of elements that it's a whole ass thing. But taking this break, because I'm not working on the book at all, and I've been plotting book 2, like a rough plot. I've been kind of, blocking it up and seeing where I can go. I'm just like in anticipation to hear back everyone's opinion of the book. Like, what the fuck are people gonna take it as? What are they gonna... I don't even know. It's crazy. Like I said, I go through all the emotions. I go through the whole fucking gauntlet. From self-pity to like, oh, maybe it is good. And like, yeah, you know what? It's great. All the way back down to like, I'm the worst ever. No one should read that. And people think I suck. And, you know, I go through these waves of fucking ups and downs. Probably bipolar, let's be honest. So it's just, I'm just curious to see what people take from it. You know, because you put so many years of hard work into it and headaches and tears and just all this pain. And you're going and exploring the darkest things that you can explore in humanity. And now these people are reading it. What are they going to take from it? You know? What are they going to put into it? That's the crazy part. You know? What's going to happen next? I have no idea. Is it going to be received well? Or is everyone going to say, like, I don't get it. I don't get this. The negative side of me thinks that. People are going to get it and they're going to pretend like, yeah, it's great. I thought it was nice, you know. And they're going to walk away and be like, God damn, that's horrible. Like, that's what I'm expecting, right? Is my low self-esteem. I'm hoping someone reads it and thinks, oh my God, this is amazing. That's what I want. You know, it's like expectations and reality. Oh my God. I don't know, man. I don't know if I'm being humored or if people really think it's good. We'll find out. But it's just so difficult sometimes. I feel like just so at the whim of like, oh, I'm so shitty. And I know that, like, because I've been, you know, a musician and because I, you know, draw and that kind of stuff, like artistry, I know it's a natural thing to just look at it and see shit in your creation. Like, this is junk. It's very rare that you're just like, this is perfection. So I know that this is just kind of part of the artist's life, but goddamn, it's so much worse when it's writing. So much worse. I despise this shit. Why didn't I make it shorter? I tried, I shortened as much as I could. I don't know anything about grammar. And so I only recently learned about grammar after I sent the edit, so let's see how that goes. I try to naturally do it, like, comma feels natural here. You know, like, that's how I did it before. I didn't know there was rules to this shit. That's what I mean about feeling behind. Everything that's obvious the most to me, it's like, I didn't know that you needed a semicolon there. I didn't know how to use that dash. I didn't know you were allowed to use that. How do you use a quotation, but when you say, he thought first, and then the words? I didn't know you could just put a comma, then the thing. I didn't know this shit. Like, all this kind of weird English stupid shit that I don't really pay attention to because I know how to read it and break it apart, but I don't know how to make it for someone else. I need to sit down with someone and say, I'm going to read it out loud, and you tell me where the commas and punctuations should be. Honestly. Because that's probably the hardest part, is sentence structure. That, for me, was impossible to figure out. I'm still at a loss. Like, how the fuck do I know when a sentence should be a sentence? And you edit for so long, and you're like, what is a sentence even? And now everything doesn't seem right. Now I'm reading everything like, that doesn't even seem like a thought. What is that? It's a bunch of words. And I just start overthinking. Like, that's fucking horrible. I hate writing so much. Anyway, I needed to make a video and so I could ramble about this. I guess this is the topic of the video. How to have sex with people you don't want to. Well, finally, I'll give an update when I know things. We'll see. I'll just keep working on things like I always do.